I did some research on one-to-one devices that are used in the classroom, and obviously right now the biggest debate is iPads versus Chromebooks because they're pretty equal in cost. So where I started was just looking at what was out there. I ran across a blog where people had voted on what device they thought. And I'd be interested to see how this aligned with our voting in this class. But you can see the iPad came out just slightly ahead of the Chromebook, I guess if you include the iPad mini. I can't help but wonder if this is what people are familiar with or what the background is, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. And then I looked at some articles around really choosing devices and sort of what we're looking at in terms of what does the one-to-one bring to our program. In educational leadership, the focus was around, does it support your LMS system? So for Edina and Hopkins, we both use Moodle. Does it support the apps you want to use? Battery life, keyboard, you could argue both have access to a keyboard. Size, cost, durability, and management. I would say after having iPads in the classroom for a number of years, Chromebooks do seem easier to manage, but I'm not sure if that one item would trump everything else. As I looked at some other research, the focus shifted from choosing a device into what you're going to use it for. So this was an ISTE article, and what I liked about it were the questions, and it was a real shift in terms of really not looking at the device itself, but what do you want to do with it. So, what do we want to accomplish? That might have to do with learning objectives or thinking skills or collaboration, those kinds of things. What's out there that's free that we can tap into? Infrastructure. I thought number 4 was really interesting. Looking at how quickly new technologies are developed, how long do we think this device will remain relevant? And then number 5 was interesting, as I myself earlier today sat with a laptop, an iPad, and my phone out as I was trying to schedule some things. Does it serve teachers and students to only have one device? I thought that was an interesting question, given that many of us will find ourselves in situations where we'll have multiple devices out. So where I sort of started and ended after reading a number of articles is this debate's not about the device. It's really about learning. So the learning environment and instruction, the device is irrelevant if we don't apply changes in how we teach. Flexibility in learning spaces. We don't need a front of the room anymore when a lot of the content kids need can be delivered through the digital medium. Teaching students self-control and digital citizenship. While we need to have some oversight around what kids can and cannot see on the devices, I don't think we should be picking devices based on how well we can control them. Since digital citizenship is going to be part of their world and social media, I think that's just an essential element of what we need to be teaching now that we have these devices in our world. Obviously, focus is always on the learning objective. We need to be looking at, content and what is our goal, and not get really too derailed by the device itself, and make sure that we're using it as a vehicle and a tool for learning. And then lastly, pedagogy is everything. One article I read said, an active student-centered approach where the focus is on content creation versus content consumption is a more effective way to utilize these devices. Not only does that shift take the need for control aspect out of teaching, it empowers the students to take control of his or her own learning. An environment that encourages collaboration, problem solving, and communication means students are applying their learning in a much more powerful way. This is not a new approach, but having iPads or Chromebooks makes it much more possible. So looking at how are we training teachers to make this shift becomes really important. Another piece I want to share, if I can go, was another article, and a piece of it just really stuck out for me, and it had to do with how we view literacy. It was a longer article, but this one piece I thought was really interesting, and it looked at how do we view literacy and kind of prioritize it. And what they were saying is educators who tend to lean towards Chromebooks really have a focus on writing as a really important skill to be practiced, and of course it is, where many of the teachers who favored iPads really focused more on communicating in multiple formats, including video. So it's just a different look at two forms of literacy that are both really important, but I thought it was an interesting way to look at that. The last piece, since I'm already over my time, I wanted to share a YouTube video with you. It's about 7 minutes long, but he talks about how many times in education we have said, this will revolutionize education. And I don't want to, spoiler alert, it's always been about the teacher and pedagogy and good teaching. But I thought it was a good video that I wanted to share with you.